This program is about unsolved cyber mysteries. What you're about to see is not a vulnerability report.
It's Unsolved Cyber Mysteries, Volume 1. In this episode, we unpack the story of the strange events of November 22nd, 1987, when TV viewers in the windy city of Chicago found themselves at the business end of two highly illegal and extremely odd cases of signal hijacking. Today, hacking most often conjures up images of sleek, modern computer terminals, digital mayhem, malicious intent, and oddly enough, Albanian gangsters. But the spirit of hacking, as we'll see, can be both playful and low-tech. It was 9:14 p.m. on a regular November night when WG NTV sports anchor Dan Roan's feed was suddenly interrupted by a black screen. And then, moments later, thousands of viewers were presented with the silent and eerie image of someone impersonating Max Headroom for more than 30 seconds.
Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I.
And so were the hundreds of viewers who lit up WGN's switchboard trying to understand what they'd just seen. But they were in for another unexpected surprise when, just 2 hours later, the airwaves were hacked again. This time, another local Chicago station, WTTW, was hacked, and that's when things got truly weird. For fans who were watching the cult hit Doctor Who that night, not only did the signal hack interrupt their regularly scheduled program, but it also came with audio, accompanied by some truly surreal behavior on the part of the Max Headroom impersonator. During his time on air, the impersonator plugged Pepsi, casually extended a middle finger, and, most bizarrely, got his bare backside spanked by a woman in a maid's costume who brandished a fly swatter. The hijack was laced with disparaging commentary and digs at local media institutions, the politics of certain news hosts, and a general spirit of anarchy that made it all jaw-droppingly watchable. Then, after a minute and 22 seconds, the airwaves resumed normal broadcasting. So, just what was going on here? Well, to answer that question, you need to first ask, who was Max Headroom? In the 1980s, new technology and the internet was still very much the stuff of science fiction to average citizens. These frontiers of the future were mysterious and even a little frightening. The character Max Headroom was created as the host of a music video program that also left room for cutting social commentary. Portrayed by an actor, the cynical anti-corporate Headroom was imagined as a futuristic digital character locked inside a digital world that was full of glitches. So, by 1987, Max Headroom had arguably become the perfect avatar for expressing any anti-establishment message that an eager, up-and-coming signal jacker might want to get across.
Who was it said that observing the United States is like watching an epic movie?
Oscar Wilde? Woody Allen?
Max Headroom. Just think, they've got an actor for a president, economic advisors called projectionists. Even their latest defense strategy is named after a film, Star Wars.
But just who was behind the signal jacking? The FBI and the Federal Communications Commission certainly wanted to know, and they both immediately launched high-profile investigations into the hack.
But the person in the Max Headroom disguise may not know how sophisticated officials can be in tracing this sort of thing. It leaves an electronic signature.
Very quickly, the story dominated national news and people's imaginations, with speculations running wild around the motives and methods behind the attack. And opinions on the hack were, to say the least, a little wide-ranging.
Very, very funny.
He or she will face both civil and criminal penalties.
Initially, the federal authorities thought it would have taken deep technical know-how and more than $25,000 worth of equipment to pull off the hack. But the real answer was that almost anyone could have overridden the local TV signals by pointing a powerful transmitter at the ones used by those stations. This very simple explanation was shared in a bulletin board post by a user known as The Chameleon, who seemed to have inside knowledge that suggested they themselves might actually be the culprit.
Hardly an inside job. They just aimed their transmitter at the same transponder that WGN uses and used a higher power. It's one of those things that doesn't work out on paper, but it works. Welcome to Earth, where everything you know is wrong.
While the federal investigations continued, speculation grew in the hacking and phreaking communities about just who the culprit or culprits might be. Were there clues in the hacker's message or in the broadcast itself? Both formal and community-driven investigations dove deep to look for answers. One set of clues pointed in the direction of Eric Fournier, a musician and performance artist whose video work bore many similarities to the Max Headroom signal jackings. It was low-tech, it was pre-produced on video, and it employed masks as part of the performance. It was also patently silly and designed to provoke. But if Fournier was indeed the culprit, he took the secret to his grave when he died in 2010 at the age of 42. With few suspects and even fewer clues, the investigation into the Headroom hacks went cold. After an initial flurry of activity, the federal authorities threw in the towel after less than 6 months on the case. But why was there such a lack of clues? The answer lies in the unique nature of the signal jacking itself. One thing that set the Chicago hacks apart from previous ones was that the signals had been hacked using analog and old-school techniques over the airwaves, whereas previous cases had used internal broadcast equipment that left digital fingerprints for investigators to find. An infamous previous example of signal jacking was the HBO signal intrusion of April 27, 1986. The 4.5-minute takeover occurred when electrical engineer and frustrated HBO subscriber John McDougal, aka Captain Midnight, seized control of HBO's satellite feed to protest their subscription prices. In response, the FBI protested that McDougal be forced to pay a $5,000 fine and undergo a year of probation. The Captain Midnight hack also put the issue of signal jacking into the public consciousness and led to Congress hurriedly passing the Electronic Communications Privacy Act of 1986, which made satellite jamming and other intrusions a felony crime. A law that, interestingly, has not been amended since, despite vast changes in the digital landscape in the ensuing 30 years. And that's the very same law that fell squarely on the head of one Thomas M. Haney, who, on September 6, 1987, orchestrated the holiest of hacks when he used the resources of the Christian Broadcasting Network control room to hijack the Playboy channel and display a religious message in the middle of a film. Although he vehemently protested his innocence, the FBI quickly followed the digital clues to Haney's doorstep, making him the first person convicted under the new felony law. He racked up a $1,000 fine, 3 years of probation, and 150 hours of community service. These early examples of hacking, Max Headroom, Captain Midnight, and the Playboy channel intrusion, all point to a more innocent time. They were each small, personal pranks on the system that ultimately did no harm to anything other than corporate egos. But in the late 80s, all perceptions of hacking changed dramatically as young hackers took to the newly accessible internet, ushering in the next era of hacking subculture that still exists to this day. This has also created a parallel underbelly of cybercrime whose costs to the global economy are estimated to reach north of $20 billion every year. To date, the identity of the Max Headroom hijacker remains a mystery, but it's safe to say that whoever it was wasn't in it for the money. For bragging rights? Maybe. Just to see if it could be done? Perhaps. An inborn need to be publicly flogged with a fly swatter? Clearly. Whatever the motivation, the buzz that surrounded the Chicago signal jacking is yet another example of how the methods, messages, and mayhem of hacking fascinate us all. Until next time, I'm Casey Ellis. Stay curious.